Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Sweeney. I'm here today with Jennifer Fontaine, Aldo Meza, and Cindy Platt to talk with you about our analysis of the Virgin American merger. Before we get started, I'll plot our trajectory so you know the route we'll be taking to our destination. To get us moving down the runway, Jennifer will describe where Alaska Airlines and Virgin America fit within our industry. She'll provide a mile-high view of the proposal. Next, Cindy will flag the qualitative factors involved in the deal. Then Aldo will dive into the relevant figures and show how the acquisition will affect our bottom line. And from there, I'll wrap up and look forward to taking your questions. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to Jennifer so we can get started.
Thanks, Joseph, and hello, everybody. My name is Jennifer, and I'll be giving you a brief history and current state of the airline industry, Alaska Airlines, and an overview of the merger deal we're proposing to you today. Everybody knows about the famous first flight of Orville and Wilbur Wright near Kitty Hawk in 1903, but it was more than 20 years before aviation was stable enough and safe enough to become more commonplace and start taking shape as an industry that would go on to change the world. The Airmail Act, passed in 1925, was the first of many more to come, of course, major pieces of legislation affecting the airline industry in the United States. This act allowed the post office to contract with private airlines to deliver mail and was a crucial starting point in the development of the industry. The Airmail Act was closely followed by the Air Commerce Act that was passed in 1926. This act gave the Secretary of Commerce the power to establish airways, certify planes, license pilots, and create and enforce air traffic regulations. With the passage of this legislation, the American airline industry was born. Major commercial airlines began to emerge in the mid-1920s, including some very recognizable names that are at the top of the industry today. Delta Airlines, United Airlines, and American Airlines are known as the last remaining legacy airlines that dominate the U.S. market for services to both domestic destinations and abroad. We'll talk more about them later in the presentation. During the early years, the airlines had to compete on service alone as the government regulated the industry and ticket prices were all the same. The deregulation of the airline industry in 1978 by Jimmy Carter changed the industry beyond recognition. It removed federal control over fares, routes, and market entry, and suddenly any airline could fly any route at any price. This really was a game changer. Dozens of new airlines entered the market and prices plummeted. This decrease in ticket costs was aided by the fact that oil prices had dropped 60% during this same time period. Air travel had entered a new era and was no longer just for the rich. 40 years after deregulation, competition is fierce, and airlines must carefully manage price, service, and alliances to stay in the game. 4 carriers dominate today's U.S. passenger market. Remember those 3 legacy carriers we discussed in the history of the airline industry? American, Delta, and United remain among the top 4 carriers in today's U.S. market. Southwest is a new guy here, coming in on the scene 35 to 40 years after the 3 legacy carriers. A major difference between Southwest and the Legacy 3 is that Southwest offers very few international destinations, whereas international service is a major chunk of business for the others. Still, Southwest is actually number 1 for domestic travel in the United States, and they hold an impressive 19% share of the market, despite their lack of international options. Smaller carriers like Alaska Airlines, JetBlue, Virgin America, Spirit, and Frontier each have 5% or less share of the market. So how do today's airlines compete and continue to grow? They vigilantly manage their efficiencies and costs, which is no small task with the unstable fuel prices and changes in U.S. economy that come and go over the years. They also rely on marketing and loyalty programs and social media advertising. Most frequent flyer programs have seen some major devaluations over the past couple of years, but the perks of flying with this status still keep some flyers tied to the airline of their choice, disgruntled or not. For airlines servicing international cities, code-sharing and alliances with foreign carriers have been invaluable in expanding their reach and increased revenue with more diverse routing options code-sharing provides. In fact, the 3 legacy airlines are all part of separate alliances among airlines that formed groups that together have a global reach where flyers can earn their points and enjoy elite status perks when flying around the world. Last but certainly not least, as a driving force behind company growth in the airline industry is mergers and acquisitions. American, Delta, and United all owe a large part of their growth to a series of mergers with other airlines over the years. Over the years, there have been many mergers and acquisitions, but during the last 10 years or so, the airline industry has become more and more consolidated due to some major mergers that have taken place. You can see here the names of all of the top 4 airlines in the industry as these mergers elevated the market shares of American, Delta, United, and Southwest while decreasing the number of players on the scene. As a result, the top 4 hold about 82% of the market share in 2016 as opposed to 65% of the market in 2010. Many industry watchers warn of the dangers of this oligopoly, but that issue would be an entirely different presentation. So what about the remaining U.S. airlines listed on the previous slide? Are they to be squeezed out entirely? Are they simply acquisitions and mergers in waiting? We at Alaska Airlines are not content to sit back and wait to find out. Now that we've given a brief industry summary, let's focus on Alaska Airlines. Although not as big as the competitors, Alaska has a rich and long-standing history of its own. The company that was to become Alaska Airlines got their start in 1932 when Mr. Lydius McGee painted McGee Airways on a 3-passenger Stinson plane and began running service out of Anchorage, Alaska. McGee Airways merged with Star Airways in 1934, becoming the largest airline in Alaska with 22 aircrafts, and changed their name to Alaska Airlines in 1944. Alaska's enjoyed modest growth over the years with acquisitions of Jet American Airways and Horizon Air in the 1980s and adding numerous routes and destinations. Code-share agreements with Delta and American have also enabled the company to expand our reach outside of the Pacific Northwest. Alaska currently holds about 5% of the industry market, and that puts them at the top of the group of smaller carriers in the United States. Given the current state of the industry, with the legacy carriers gobbling up the smaller airlines at an alarming rate, it's time for Alaska to take action to secure our position in the U.S. market and enjoy growth that only an acquisition can provide. Now we'll give you all the information you need to give us your support on this merger. Virgin America is fairly new to the airline industry, being founded in 2004, but they are the logical choice for Alaska to acquire. This deal brings so many things to the table for Alaska. We would be able to enjoy the revenue enhancement, cost reduction, tax gains, and reduced capital requirements that this merger would create. Our team has also conducted an internal analysis that shows Alaska enjoying a synergy value of approximately $620 million present value dollars total over the next 5 years. As if the previous details weren't enough, there are even more talking points that strongly favor this deal. Virgin America has landing rights at coveted airports that Alaska has had our eye on for years, and the strong foothold in California that Alaska needs. The merger would make Alaska Airlines the indisputable leader of the smaller carrier group in the U.S., with 7% of the market share and the 5th largest airline in the U.S. It also must be taken into account that JetBlue is eyeballing Virgin America as a possible acquisition as well. They are Alaska's strongest rival, and it would be an absolute disaster were they to acquire Virgin America and enjoy all of the benefits we just discussed, to the detriment of Alaska Airlines. Virgin America will benefit as well, catapulting from a 2% market share to a 7% market share with the new Alaska Airlines. There's much to be gained in this proposed acquisition, and also much to be lost if we don't act now. My partner Cindy and Aldo will now present some more detailed qualitative and quantitative analysis to further enhance your understanding of the benefits of our proposal and ensure your support of the deal.
Hello, this is Cindy Platt. I'm here to present the qualitative analysis for acquiring Virgin America. We found several synergistic benefits associated with acquiring Virgin America, including opportunities for revenue enhancement through marketing gains of $664.8 million, cost reduction through the addition of complementary resources, economies of scale, and an elimination of inefficiencies of $124.65 million, tax gains associated with the net operating losses and surplus funds of $33.24 million, and reductions in capital requirements of $8.3 million. As a result of the proposed acquisition, we projected combined synergies of $36 million this year, sharply increasing to $195 million in 2019, and reaching an estimated $300 million at full integration by 2021. Over the next 5 years, we estimated receiving $664.8 million in overall synergy benefit increases from revenue enhancement through marketing gains. These marketing gains were directly related to benefits from network expansion, increases in loyalty program participants, and effective aircraft size to market pairing. Merging with Virgin America would expand current market reach by adding new route networks in the West Coast region, North America, and worldwide, thereby enhancing our revenue. This deal would create revenue enhancement through increases in competitive advantage, offering more opportunity to serve the 39.1 million residents of California. Our strong presence in California should result in 175,000 daily flyers, attributing to an improvement in market position to 22%, the largest available seat share for the West Coast region. The acquisition of Virgin America would also be advantageous in creating new opportunities for growth and competitive advantage in North America, allowing an expansion of 1,200 daily flights to 118 destinations in the United States, Mexico, Canada, Costa Rica, and Cuba. We determined little overlap in combined current routes, despite both individually having a strong existing presence in the West Coast region. Revenue enhancement should result as the combined airline becomes one of the most compelling partners for international carriers on the West Coast. This global partner network was estimated at 44% of all international seats, which would exceed any other carrier alliance. Adding Virgin America's 200 destinations with its estimated 7 million passengers should enhance revenue through expansions in our loyalty program participation. An integral part of capturing maximum benefit would be to welcome Virgin America's Elevate Loyalty Program members into the Alaska Air Mileage Plan. The award-winning status of our plan should be an effective draw, but to ensure expected increases, we added reciprocal benefits to our non-revenue-based loyalty model and planned a 30% conversion ratio incentive in our valuation. We estimated for additional advertising specifically designed to promote positive post-merger brand awareness, such as utilizing a specialized microsite or promotional giveaway, which would be essential in contributing to expected increases in synergy benefits and loyalty program participation. The addition of 60 newer Airbus planes positively affects projected synergy benefits with an increased ability to effectively pair aircraft size to market demand. The deal would also provide more airport gate access in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Dallas Love Field, New York LaGuardia, and Washington Reagan. Post-merger projections have indicated acquisition would improve annual revenue by $1.5 billion. The determined combined synergy from revenue enhancement through marketing gains should translate into attractive returns on investment and increases in overall stockholder value. When projecting synergy benefits over the next 5 years, we determined $124.65 million was available through reductions in cost, with $28.25 million in economies of scale, $91.41 million of complementary resources, and over $4.9 million through the elimination of inefficient management. Value from combined human resources and newer fleet options should create synergy by reducing cost as complementary resources. Improvements in economies of scale through effective asset utilization coupled with spreading overhead and expected minimal eliminations of inefficient management should also reduce cost and create synergistic benefits. It was determined that despite the uniqueness of both airlines, the overall commitment to stakeholders was essentially the same. We agreed, if harnessed effectively, cost reductions through complementary value could be gained. This common vision could promote positive assimilation, thereby reducing overall human resource expenses. We also assessed that total human resources should change approximately 20% with the addition of an estimated 3,000 Virgin employees. This increase in staffing should reduce the recruiting cost over the 5-year period. A combined fuel-efficient fleet of more than 280 aircraft with an average age of 8.1 years would offer the newest over any of the top 5 U.S. competitors. This would result in reductions for fuel and maintenance cost. In our forecast, we estimated synergy benefits over a 5-year period at $8.31 million for reductions of capital requirements and $33.24 million in tax gains, with $24.93 million of that attributed to net operating losses and $8.31 million to reduction in surplus funds. In conclusion, we determined additional timeline milestones should include gaining a single operating certificate, unifying labor agreements and seniority list, moving to a common passenger service system, decisions regarding fleet discrepancies, and a long-term status of the Virgin America brand.
The proposed merger would not only add to our strategic opportunities, but it would also add values in the form of synergies created. We have estimated that these synergies will provide increased cash flows for the next 5 years. The largest increases being made in marketing gains and in cost reductions. The cash flows created would increase from $36 million in year 1 to $300 million in year 5. An estimated weighted average cost of capital analysis for 2016 highlighted the reduction in pre-tax cost of debt from 7.4% to 6.3%, associated with the projected zero tax obligation. This, coupled with the 57.6% debt to capital ratio post-merger, should reduce overall cost of capital from 8.4% to 7.9%. We determined that despite evidence of a highly leveraged capital structure, the acquisition would have a positive impact on our post-merger cost of capital. We calculated the present value of Synergy's cash flows to assign a value to the purchase price of Virgin America. We calculated that the total present value of the projected cash flows would total $620.26 million using the weighted average cost of capital of 7.9%. We calculated the present value of Synergy's cash flows to assign a value to the purchase price of Virgin America. We calculated that the total present value of the projected cash flows would total $620.26 million using the weighted average cost of capital of 7.9%. While we're encouraged by the synergies that would be created, we wanted to confirm that Virgin America was a strong corporation on its own. We conducted financial ratio analysis based on their 10Q reported on the first quarter of 2016 and used our investment grade ratios as a benchmark for comparison, beginning with the short-term solvency ratios. Our analysis showed Virgin America has no difficulties in meeting short-term obligations. In the airline industry, large and long contractual obligations must be made. We conducted long-term solvency ratios to verify the solvency of Virgin America. While some ratios were not in line with ours, we concluded that this may be a result of Virgin America paying too much in fuel costs. Virgin America does not actively trade in fuel call options to hedge against rising fuel costs. We assessed the profitability of Virgin America. While their ratios are not as strong as compared to ours, we recognize that fuel costs and our larger amount of depreciation may cause the differences. We anticipate being able to improve profit margins by offsetting fuel costs with our fuel calls options trading and our efficient use of assets. Focusing our attention at the market valuation of Virgin America stock, we calculated the market value ratios. These ratios were calculated using end of first quarter 2016 quoted stock prices. We used a stock price of $82.02 for our ratios and a price of $38.56 for Virgin America. We determined despite Virgin America's low market value ratios, the opportunity for expansion and growth could not be discounted. Focusing our attention at the market valuation of Virgin America stock, we calculated the market value ratios. These ratios were calculated using end of first quarter 2016 quoted stock prices. We used a stock price of $82.02 for our ratios and a price of $38.56 for Virgin America. We determined despite Virgin America's low market value ratios, the opportunity for expansion and growth could not be discounted.
Growth opportunities in the airline industry are shrinking as larger companies continue to consolidate operations through strategic mergers and acquisitions. Virgin America is a prime acquisition target that would bring tremendous value to Alaska Airlines. Their organization boasts key landing rights, profitable flight routes on the West Coast, and a popular brand that resonates with travelers. Merging our companies would allow us to leapfrog JetBlue and Spirit's regional interests by increasing our market share to 7%, while providing synergies from revenue enhancement, cost reduction, tax gains, and savings from reduced capital requirements worth a net present value of $620 million. Consequently, it's our recommendation that Alaska Airlines moves to capitalize on this opportunity by initiating merger proceedings with a target purchase price of $52.16.